What up, though, everybody? This is Kyle, and you are back about to watch another great episode of Knockouts and Three Counts. If you're new to the channel, welcome. You're going to like what we've got in store for you. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, a fan of WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, NXT, we've got interviews with all of those guys on there. If you want to know what went down with some of these events and know, what our thoughts were on them, we've got you covered. If you're a fan of UFC or Bellator or Ryzen or any of those, or even in this interview, the guys that are on their way up to the UFC, we've got you covered there with interviews there with the likes of Justin James. And like I said, guys from Bellator and Ryzen and everything in between. Tonight, we're bringing you a dope interview with Calvin HOLLYWOOD Harbaugh ahead of his fight with for CFFC on December 17th on UFC Fight Pass. So we're going to take you a little bit behind the scenes and get to know the man behind the fisticuffs. And make sure before we get started that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the great content coming from the homies at Knockouts and Three Counts. Enjoy this video.
Usman is a fucking absolute animal, and I have nothing. Yeah. I want money on that fight. There was a lot of dumbasses out there that thought Jorge was gonna pull that off, and I was cool with it, man, because I made some money on that. I'm not trying to knock Kamaru Usman,
but he's not the guy you think of when you're thinking of what's the most exciting fight.
Right.
That being said, I gotta ask you though, since you're talking about fight picks, what do you think about this fight that we got this weekend with Davison Figueiredo and Roy Val stepping up to fight him?
No, Moreno.
It's Moreno. Yeah, Brandon Moreno.
Excuse me. I got my names mixed up.
Different Brandon.
Brandon.
Man.
It was Brandon. He's fighting Brandon.
Different Brandon, man.
Moreno.
Get your Brandons right, bro.
What up, everybody? This is Kyle, and you are back watching Knockouts and Three Counts, and we're back with another MMA interview for you. We've got a first-time guest to the show. As always, I got Corey with me, and tonight's guest is none other than Calvin HOLLYWOOD Harbaugh, who is getting ready to fight at CFFC 90 going down December 17th. How are you doing, brother man?
I'm feeling good, man. I get to do what I love every day. So at the end of the day, it's hard, as it is dealing with the aches and the pains and the bullshit and the weight cut, man. I can't really complain. If I'm complaining, I'm not in the right space. So, I just got, to be grateful for this shit, man. I'm happy to have a fight. A lot of guys, say they're looking for fights and can't get them. So, I'm just happy to have this opportunity against Tanner Casey to go whoop some ass, man, and represent Michigan because, not a lot of guys are getting these opportunities, especially these national fights. I'm busting my ass, and I've been ready for this. That's why I was able to take this fight, short notice. These are during these times, is how the opportunities have come. Even the LFA opportunity, the first one I got was a week's notice. So I've just been staying ready for everything and trying to enjoy the process. I got the right team behind me, which I think has been super important for me.
Well,
and
let's talk about that. So, you mentioned that, you had your two fights in LFA, and then now you're going to be going to war for CFFC. How important do you think it is for, a lot of the guys that we're seeing here on the regional scene, man? Like, a lot of them, you got your coach or somebody who's handling, booking your fights for you and stuff. How important do you think it's been to have that management team in place for you to be able to do that? Because like you said, it has been hard for anybody to get fights with all the different regulations in the States with COVID.
Well, it's been huge, and not everybody wants to fight, some of these top guys that they're flying in from Arizona, from these top teams that they're offering fights. So I think that has something to do with it. But at the same time, without Liam bringing me this opportunity, I wouldn't have had it. So I think, especially with this fight, I've grown so much closer to the company because I have such an appreciation for what they've been able to do to bring this together. Liam has, jumped through so many hoops, ran around for me getting this shit together so I can just focus on the fight. He's got a COVID test on a week's notice. I'm going to Dearborn in the morning, because things are working out so weird with CFFC. How they do things is my corner can get tested once we get down there, but I've got to be tested before we even fly out. So, you know, whatever. They obviously, I don't know if they always think about, you know, shit like that, but as a fighter, you know, you got to be ready for anything. You know, it's just get me to the damn octagon so I can do what I got to do.
So along with that, you're coming off a loss in your last fight for LFA, and you're getting to step right back in another high class promotion, back to back, off of that loss. But they're giving you a tough opponent here, and your opponent who's now 3-0, and they're bringing him in to fight with you. So tell me your thoughts on that last fight.
This dude, he's 3-0, but the guy's 29 years old and been fighting for 12 years. He's got 3 fucking pro fights. You know, these guys that they bring in that are undefeated, it's just, I don't give a fuck about the record. I'm gonna be straight up. Like, for me, I really don't let that play in. You know, I've been taking every fight that's come across the table from the beginning, trying to prepare myself for the big leagues. You know, when LFA called, even Nate Morrow, the dude that I heel hooked out there, just got another win. He's 3-1 as a pro. So, 3-1, 3-0, it's the same thing to me. So I try not to let it get in my head too much, but shit.
Well, the reason I ask is because, we were looking up your record, going into this. You were, 5-0 as an amateur.
Yes, sir.
5-0 as an amateur. You're 2-2 now as a pro. Obviously not quite the way you wanted, your pro
exactly. Yes, sir.
Pro career
yes,
to
sir.
start. But now, you're getting this opportunity, to not only start straightening that out, you're straightening that out on a big stage. So does that, was there anything mental for you, when, you started your pro career and there was a little bit of a skid in the beginning coming off of being 5-0? Did that do anything for you?
I think it was huge, but it was the humbling experience I needed. I was I was just in a delusional state. I thought I was better than I was. I thought maybe necessarily didn't need to get the proper training. I was comfortable, and that fight made me realize that you got some holes in your game that you need to shore up. I've always been one that wanted to jump the ladder. As an amateur, dude, if you look back at my record, in my third fight, I fought the top. I do with almost 20 amateur fights, was #1 in the state. I've constantly been trying to go for it in this game. That's been my mentality. Anybody, anytime, I want to just get out there and fight, and I hope that at the end of the day, that's what I'm remembered for. Yeah, I've had some skids, and even in that LFA fight, I went out way too fast, and I made a mistake. But I'm maturing as a fighter, and I think Tanner Casey's going to be in some big problems because, like you said, you look at my record, it's not all wins, but every single one of those guys has a shit ton of experience. And every single one of those fights, I've gotten better and I've grown. So,
well, that's kind of one thing. That's kind of one thing you've been able to show, like you were mentioning prior, is as long as you're able to accept fights kind of on, as long as you're close to your target weight where you need to be to accept the fight, and staying in the gym enough to be trained where you don't necessarily need to go through a full camp. I mean, you can go in there and accept these fights. And where he's mentioning skids, I don't necessarily think it was a skid. Like you said, it was the first one's a learning experience. It happens to everybody. But the fact that you came back from that, got multiple wins in a row, I mean.
Well, even in that first fight, dude, the dude had 8 fucking pro fights.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. My first pro fight, dude was an undefeated amateur, had 8 pro fights, and I had his back the whole first round. I gassed myself out. I wasn't training in glove. I mean, my career has been, kind of a whirlwind, but this one thing about this COVID that's helped me is being able to slow things down. And I actually was able to sit in with the seminar with Coyle Gracie, and the guys, every time you're around a Gracie, you got to keep your ears open and your mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? But he was talking about, when you're not competing, this is the time for, to be sharpening your skills, to be adding things to your game. And, the guys at Black Lion, Coach Palmer, have done a great job of breaking me down to build me back up. I was in a place where I thought I could go out there and dominate everybody. As an amateur, I was doing that. I was able to control everybody. I didn't really see, and it is hard in Michigan to find the right training partners, to find guys to push you that are serious about the sport, man. I mean, it's just true, because I feel like a lot of guys, they say they love the sport, but do you really love the sport, man? Do you really love this shit? Are you gonna come, or do you want to go? You know, do you want to go wrestle for, you know, an hour straight? Can you do that? I don't know if you can. I don't know if you're ready for that. So, you know, and I'm getting to this level now where, you know, my conditioning is finally, I feel like where it needs to be. I've added meditation and a lot of things in my game to try to help. Like in my last fight where I came out way too fast, you know, and that LFA, that I don't know if anybody knows about that, but that opponent got changed 3 times. And 2 weeks before the fight, I was pretty much out of the fight. I had stopped weight cutting. You know, I was drinking again. I thought I was not going to fight. And then they offered me a guy last second. And what are you going to say? It's LFA. You take the fight. And, you know, I ended up proposing to my wife that night. Maybe that wasn't the best thing on my part, but it was like, if you can't take pressure in this game, you're in the wrong fucking game. So,
you know. I can't not respect that either, man, because like I said, you know, when I said that in the beginning, I didn't mean that to say like, oh, you had a shit start. What I mean is like, you know, you come in 5-0 as an amateur, you know, you're on a pretty damn big high, you know, heading into being a pro. You know, that was where I was going with that. Yeah. But like you said, I feel like, you know, now that you had that loss with LFA and then to be able to bounce back and come right back to CFFC, I mean, this gives you a hell of an opportunity to not only right that fight, it puts you right back in the eyes of the UFC, obviously, because it's on UFC Fight Pass.
And I feel like all my fight, I feel like what the UFC wants to see, you see some of these guys come in, even to the UFC, you know, with 30 fights. They've got losses on their record, but they're ready to fight anybody in the world.
Right.
And I think that's what the UFC people think. They need these spotless records. They want to see that you can compete with the best guys out there. You know what I mean? So how long is it going to take for you to get there? And a lot of these guys take a safer route than I chose, but I always wanted to try to take, you know, the fastest route to the top possible. And I knew that along the way that there'd be skids eventually. I mean, it's the fucking fight game. But I knew that one day, I know in my heart that I'm going to be amongst the best guys in the world. You know, and I'm going to keep pushing it every single day and doing everything I can to make that possible.
So we talked a little bit about your fight camp. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, I just saw that you opened up a new gym, or you're going to be coaching in a new gym or something like that.
I accepted an opportunity to train out of a new gym in Easttown, Grand Rapids, and it's absolutely beautiful, man. It's called Strike Back Fight Club. And like I had been reached out to by Title before, and it never was something that really, that cardio kickboxing, it always seemed kind of corny to me. But at this spot, it's like a New York style boutique boxing gym. The environment's great, and they want to blend it. They want to teach people real techniques. Not to mention they got beautiful state-of-the-art kettlebells, you know, new wind bikes, adjustable speed bags. I mean, the thing's awesome. Be able to have that at my disposal, to be able to pick some of the guys that I'm working with. I'm trying to build a team, and I'm finding guys, you know, it's like one of those situations where it's like, if you don't see it, you know, you got to build it. So I've seen a lot of guys that are serious, and I'm trying to motivate them. Like people, you know, had motivated me in the past to really get some guys, you know, that are serious. And if I can, you know, bring them in there and train them out of there, it's going to be a great asset to me and help, you know, everybody on my team up their game, man.
So where have you been, you know, before, you know, switching to this new spot? I mean, where have you been training out of primarily? Just I'm
not going to be training primarily out of there. I'm going to be training people out of there, but you know, I'm going to still be training out of Black Lion Jiu-Jitsu. I'm working with a new striking coach whose name's Duncan Duffin, who fought in China, fought all over, trained with Kung Lee, and you know, he is really doing a lot he's such a technical guy, you know, a really, you know, brilliant guy. And he's taken the time with me, you know, privately to really just focus on me. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What can we add to the game? You know, because at this point I have all the physical tools, but you know, technically now it's about getting me up to speed where I need to be. So, you know, like we've been going over the clinch game, elbows, everything, man. And it's like, I love to fight, and now you give me these new tools to my repertoire that I hadn't trained before, dude. I started off my career when I was 5-0. I was taking guys down, choking them out in the first round out of a boxing gym, dude. Like training with, it's like it's been a long journey, but I'm very grateful to be in the position I'm at now, where I have a team of people around me. I'm not stuck in one place, you know, where I'm being suppressed. I can build a team of people around me that I feel like can help elevate my game. You know, my wife is a huge part of that. Tara Harbaugh, she's a Taekwondo black belt. fitness freak, and she's really helped take my conditioning game. Like she does the studying and has helped take my conditioning to a new level, you know, with the hip routines. And I like to think I'm one of the hardest working people in the room, but if someone's outworking me, it's her. And that's one of the things that, you know, drew me to her in the first place. And I think when you have a relationship like that too, it just keeps you motivated, man. And like literally fighting, I need fighting, man. Like for me, it's my entire life. Like when I don't have fighting, I'm in a bad place and I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing. So like, and this, like you said, like this is such a huge opportunity for me because, you know, this is like my life, man. Like winning this fight keeps me in the game, keeps me with, you know, people offer you fights a lot. I got that LFA fight a lot quicker than I got this CFFC opportunity. So, you know, that's the shit that wakes me up. I got 3 trainings in today in the bank, man. You know, those are the things that keep you motivated.
Corey, I
like
see
you
something lined up over there. What you got?
Well, I mean, like you said, man, it's just all about the opportunity, man. And like being able to, like I was kind of saying earlier, being able to jump on it. And the fact, like you were saying, I feel like we've been harping on the record so much, but it's really the drive and the ability to go out there and push to find the fights and the ability to show the dog in the fights is what really gets the
Just
eyes.
next level. Yeah, exactly. That gets you to the next level. Like some of these guys, like, who do you like to watch fight? You know, is it some of these guys, you know, like a Kamaru Usman with perfect record who, you know, keeps everything together? Or is it the guys going out there and going for the shit? You know what I mean? And fighting dogs. So, you know.
Well,
no disrespect to Kamaru Usman is a fucking absolute animal, and I have nothing. Yeah. I want money on that fight. There was a lot of dumbasses out there that thought Jorge was gonna pull that off, and I was cool with it, man, because you know I made some money on that. I'm not trying to knock Kamaru Usman,
but he's not the guy you think of when you're thinking of what's the most exciting fight.
Right.
That being said, I gotta ask you though, since you're talking about fight picks, what do you think about this fight that we got this weekend with Davison Figueiredo and Royval stepping up to fight him?
No, Moreno.
It's Moreno. Yeah, Brandon Moreno.
Excuse me. I got my names mixed up.
Different Brandon.
Brandon.
Man.
It was Brandon. He's fighting Brandon.
Different Brandon, man.
Moreno,
Come on, man. Get your Brandons right, bro.
Figueiredo is an interesting cat, man. Like this dude hanging out in a hair salon for most of the time and knocking dudes out. It's shocking to me. But
isn't it?
It's like so weird. I'm watching the embeddeds and I'm just like, this guy is a trip, man. But
like they just show him sitting in a sauna and getting his hair cut.
He's like, worried about his hair and shit. And I'm just like, all right, man. But he will go in there, he will, you know, put it all on the line and go and knock your ass out.
He's got that
he's probably going to be too much for Moreno. I figure it'll be too much for Moreno, but shit. You know, Moreno's climbing that ladder. He's got a couple title fights now. Maybe Davison spent too much time in the salon, and you know, Moreno's hitting the pavement. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think Moreno's got a real
underdog, man. I'm always the underdog. I always go with the underdog, man. I think the underdog.
You're taking
the hungry dog.
I think Moreno's got a real shot. But I said the same thing about Perez, and Perez had moments in the fight, but it's just like, I don't know, man. Fucking Figueiredo is so damn big for 125, dude. It just doesn't even make sense. Like you see him in there against these guys, and it's like, man, you know, that's one thing I kind of wanted to ask you actually, because you alluded to it earlier. What's your normal weight cut? How much you got to take off?
Well, I'm 10 over right now. How many days we got? 6 days. I'm 10 over. So it ain't the easiest cut, but you know,
shit. And is that, you know, already doing dieting leading up to this
Dude,
point?
I'm a freak dieter, man. You know, it's like I'm already in shape. I'm a small guy. I'm already in shape, and now it's like, you know, I shed about 5 pounds this last week. It's about a 15-pound cut, and it's tough. You know, I remember Friendo at first when I was, you know, this is when things were all in limbo. I'm 1-1. I'm not happy with where my career is at. Like you guys alluded to, you know, I want another opportunity. I'm young, I'm hungry, and things weren't happening. And Friendo offers me a fight. LFA needs a 125er. I can have you on a plane this weekend. It's like, man, I would chew off my leg if I could make that weight. You know what I mean? Like I literally would do anything to make it. I just don't think I could make it and fight. So, you know.
Well, I mean, that's a drastic cut, and especially, you know, with the smaller guys, like you kind of alluded to, man. I mean, you're talking percentages of body total. Like, I mean, like for a bigger guy, for 265, it's easy to cut 30 pounds. That's
40,
no big
yeah,
deal.
even 40. And then
Yeah.
a lot of these bigger guys, man, you know, they get big. They get big. You know, they're not staying close to that line. They're like going crazy. I mean, everybody's got a different way they go about doing things.
I feel for you so much on the weight cuts, because along with the fact that when I boxed, I fought at 120 and 125. On top of that, I have Crohn's disease. So weight cuts are not my fucking friend. And I quickly I told Corey, because like he was at my last boxing fight that I had, and then like I pretty much decided I was going to compete in just jiu-jitsu tournaments because I just didn't have the time to train like that.
Right.
I cut to, I think the most I've cut in a while was I cut to 140 maybe to compete, and then I ended up doing a best 2 out of 3 with one of my teammates, and after that I said I'll never cut weight. I will never cut weight again.
It's tough for jiu-jitsu tournaments too, because you got to compete the same day that you're weighing in. So
right, dude. And it's like, so I made that weight, and then to figure out that it's just me and him, I'm like, well, fuck, I could have done this in the gym, and this guy knows exactly what I'm gonna go for. So, like, fuck your game plan.
Right.
So I totally feel you on the weight cut. So
you gotta love the sport, though, man. You gotta love every aspect of it if you're gonna do it, man. Because
right, and I mean that's why I've stayed involved in it. I mean, dude, like I took my first boxing match at 13, dude. I'm 28, so I've been around this shit.
OG,
man. OG, for a long time, dude. Like when I was going to fights, it was back in the XCC days, bro.
I wish, man, if I had been boxing since I was 13, I'd be knocking motherfuckers out already, man. For real. Because I wish my dad got. And I was in the jiu-jitsu gym. I've been doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling my whole life, and
see, but that's not bad either. See, it was different for me though, man. Like I grew up like not only I got Crohn's, but I also, you know, I also have cerebral palsy. So when I was a kid, I was wearing braces and I couldn't cut with scissors or tie my shoes or write my name or none of that shit. And I've been fighting full-grown men since I was fucking 13, man.
I'm surprised you got a man. You going through all that, being able to stick with it and getting your purple belt, because they don't hand away. They don't get. I don't care who you know. They don't give away no.
And I mean, dude, I train with Don Richards. Like, he's known. Like you don't. I ain't get that shit handed to me.
Right. That's impressive, man. Going through all that.
I appreciate it, but it's not about me. Let's take it a minute off of fighting for a second. So our show covers pro wrestling, as we alluded to before we went on the air. So I got to know, were you ever a wrestling fan? If so, of who? Do you watch any of it anymore? Let me know.
No, man, I'm not a wrestling fan. I didn't grow up watching it. I can't really tell you much about it. I do enjoy watching the guys talk about the behind the scenes stuff, because I think that's really cool. You know, I feel like I can relate to some of it. But, you know, no, man, I don't. I think it's cool. I think it's cool what they do. I don't knock it or anything. I want those guys to eat.
I feel you.
Right. But, you know, it was something I never really got into. The same thing with the bare knuckle boxing. It's like, it's just. It's not that I don't like it. I just haven't gotten into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, I totally respect that. And that's
what?
Go ahead.
How old are you again? I forget off the top.
I just turned 25 in November.
Okay, so yeah, you're just slightly the age group before me. I just turned 28 as well. So it's like I feel like you were in that tail end of like The Rock and all that shit. Like
I'm sure
that's kind of
like my dad. Like my dad, he watched this shit and he has told me about the old greats and gone into stories about it. Right. You know, I'm sure if I was, you know, a little bit older, I'd be right there, you know, with you.
Yeah, well, that's me myself. That's where I feel like as I've gotten older, I've grown out of it myself, and I mention it on the show all the time. But that's where I jump in on.
We're talking about some real fights.
Yeah,
baby.
Hey man,
let's go.
See, but it's like what's great is we can do both of them.
Yeah,
I'm true.
I can definitely play. Yeah, I can definitely play into it.
Man,
like you said,
my nickname's Hollywood. So I appreciate the entertainment side, the aspect of what these guys are trying to do. You know, at the end of the day, It's a performance, man.
Wrestlers that we've spoken to that they've said on multiple occasions that MMA does pro wrestling better than pro wrestling does pro wrestling, because the amount of shit talking that goes into MMA and the people that are trying to, like, you know, sell their fights like a Conor McGregor or something like that. Holy God, a dude like that would do great in wrestling if he went over there. The same as that's why Floyd did good when he went over there. That's another thing. Do you think fights like those are bad for boxing and for, you know, like MMA, like these celebrity fights like that?
I'm a little bit where, like what Dana said, where it's like it kind of does show the state of boxing, because you don't see guys going in the MMA octagon willing to get elbowed and diced up by some of the top guys. Like, they would not do that. But I think it brings more eyes to the sport. It gets more people involved in fighting. And how can anybody, you know, complain when this sport just continues to grow? You know, MMA, boxing alike, fighting in general, there's room for bare knuckle now. I mean, you see room for bare knuckle now, another form of fighting. So I think it does all of it. Every fight, host every fight, every style, man. I don't want to keep anybody from, you know, fighting.
I totally respect that. Well, like we said, you're stepping into the cage next week, December 17th for CFFC 90 on UFC Fight Pass. You know, before we let you get out of here, man, any last words for your opponent or anybody that might be new to you in the fight game? What can they expect on December 17th?
Man, you can expect to see a guy who loves what he does. And I'm going to lay it all on the line. I'm going to represent Michigan. I'm going to represent my team. I'd like to take a moment to thank my sponsors, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So much money. Like, my sponsors stepped up and made it so I could fly into this fight. I wasn't going to have to drive 14 hours, you know, cutting weight and shit like that. So my sponsors actually made it able, so I was able to get tickets from me and my corner to fly there to Harrisburg. Country Roots, Trigger Boxing, Benoit Handyman Services, Excel Business Systems, which is actually run by my uncle, Tony T's Domain. These are guys that have been with me since like the beginning of my career, and the fact that they still have the belief coming off that loss to put this money to put up that money to put me in this position to try to live out my dream, you know, during Christmas time, so I can make this happen for my family. It's been one of the more humbling experiences of my life, and it just motivates me. It makes it that much more special, man. I got goosebumps, man. This is a very special fight for me. I get to go back to PA. I was born in Delaware, you know, a few hours from the convention center. So it's like, it really does feel like this is going to be a special fight for me. And in training, I know you're not able to ask any of my partners or my teammates, but, you know, it feels like everything's landing. So I'm just having fun doing what I'm doing.
I don't know, Corey. I think that sums it up pretty good, man. Hollywood Harbaugh is ready to go this weekend, brother, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thank you guys, man. You know, hit me up again whenever you guys need me.
Hey, like I said, man, we appreciate your time. And as always, for coming on, brother. You hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're following us on all the social medias at KO3C Pod. You can find me at Detroit Knockout. Find him at Fight Fan from the 313. And until next time, and in the in-between time, peace. Fuck your couch. Later.